to our territory. This afternoon, you'll be able to share a little bit of information about what's going on with the Cone Commission, what the fish farms are doing, exactly doing, and what can we do? What can we, the people, do to make a difference? Each and every voice that we have, each and every spirit that we have in this room, and thousands of others will make that difference. So I ask my dear friend Alexandra Morton, she could come and share a few words, update us a little bit about what she's doing, the candidates in the federal election and with the Cone Commissions here. Bruce.
I think it's important before anybody tells you something that you just know a little bit about them. I came to this coast to study whales, and I followed a family of whales into the Broughton Archipelago in 1984 on a rainy October day. That's between Knight Inlet and Kinkham Inlet. And I spent 10 years there following the whales in the winter time. Nobody knew what they did in the winter. And when the salmon farms came, they told us that they were good for us, and we believed them, and I welcomed them. There's a one-room school that the Gladstone's Village and Echo Bay shared, and I've raised 2 children in these waters. I've fed them on wild salmon and halibut and cod and venison. And when the salmon farms began to cause algae blooms and there was Atlantics in our rivers and the whales all left, I was the only person with a word processor. I was the only biologist. Everybody else was fishermen or artists or just people that didn't want to communicate with the outside world. So I began to write letters to DFO. I wrote 10,000 pages of letters, and that didn't work. And so then I stopped studying whales and began to study sea lice. And I wrote over 20 papers on sea lice and published them, and that didn't work. And I went to Norway to talk to the shareholders of these companies, and they told me that they couldn't get off the migration routes of the wild salmon. They have to grow all the time because they're based on a share price, and that sounded like cancer to me. Something that grows and kills everything around it is not good for us. And then we led, Anissa and Don and I led people down Vancouver Island. We walked 500 kilometers, and when we got to Victoria, we turned around and there was 5,000 people in the street that came to say they wanted to get the salmon farms out. We were shocked. We didn't know that many people loved the salmon, and we began to call everybody the wild salmon people. They are the people. It's true. We have raised our children here together, and we need to fight together. We have very different rights, but we all share the same future. And so the environmental groups don't want anything to do with us. The government doesn't want to pay us. Nobody wants to fund us. And the beautiful thing is, if nobody pays you, nobody can stop you. And the way we're going right now is just, you know, people buy the shirts, so they give us $20 here or there. We just go cheap, and going. And I'm a participant in the Cohen inquiry, and thanks to the paddle and everybody that participated on that, we did get the disease records. Justice Cohen is the only man in the world who's gotten the disease records out of this industry. And I've read them. And I'm not allowed to say what's in them, but I'm on the warpath. In August, the Cohen inquiry will be focusing on fish farms, and then everyone will know. But what we're doing right now is we're just going to talk to all the candidates, every single one of them, because I want the people to know who they're voting for. Because in my town, there's 8 people left. The school is closed. We have 27 big Norwegian feedlots. It was not good for us. And the First Nations and myself, we fight side by side. They call me Gwayamzi, which means the big whale. My daughter's Gwayam, the little whale, which I love. And in the Cohen inquiry, we learned 2 things that are public already. One is that the majority of Fraser Sake have a virus. And the woman who found this virus works for DFO, and they don't allow her to speak. And they don't allow her to go to meetings that are not run by DFO. and they don't allow her to test the farm salmon, the Atlantics, for this disease. It just weakens the fish. And so if they have a good life, they live, like those 2010ers last year. They had perfect water temperatures, and there was zooplankton that moved down from the Arctic that was very fat, and they fed very well, and they survived. But still, many of them died in the river. Nissa and Don and I have seen that with our own eyes as we went up the river in the last few days and could see all these carcasses with the eggs still in them. The other thing we learned at the Cohen Inquiry so far is that the Canadian government considers our attitude towards salmon farms a crisis. Not that the sockeye are dying, but our attitude, the fact that we hate these farms, the fact that we don't want them in the water, that is a crisis, and they have offered to work for the salmon farming industries. These are big companies that have farms in Chile and Scotland and Ireland and Eastern Canada, and we're all talking together now. And they're hated everywhere. Everybody's trying to chase them out. I've put cameras under these farms, and there's big mounds of white bacteria that can grow in sulfur-rich environments, and the prawns and everybody is gone from these places. They came and put their farms exactly where the fishermen in my community fish their prawns and fish their rock cod and fish their wild salmon, because these farms want the heartbeat of this coast. They want to be where the water is flowing. I see the Broughton Archipelago now. When I arrived there, it was huge wilderness, and now I see it as a fragile living creature that breathes with the tides, and they've put these feedlots on all our vital organs, where the tide lines form and all the food goes, and the food's just funneling into these pens. So, the mission we're on right now has been very interesting. I am a political idiot. I don't know anything about politics. I am a biologist. So when I see people, I study the way they look me in the eye, the way they behave. I look at their habitat. And so we go into these offices, and the conservative offices are sterile. There's no people in them. Some nice glossy signs. There's some nice pictures of Stephen Harper. And they say, get out, don't take pictures, this is private property. Two of them finally met with us in the last few days. They said they cannot tell us that they would support wild salmon. They don't have permission from Stephen Harper. When I go to the Liberals' offices, it's a lot of different things. Some of them say they want to wait for more science. Some of them say they want to get the farms out, so I'm not really sure. When I go to the Greens' offices, I see untried warriors. I see messy offices full of people working to elect a few candidates like Adrian Carr and Elizabeth May. I see a lot of hope for those two candidates. In other places, they're not sure what they're doing, and there's not much going on. When I go into the NDP offices, I look into very truthful, open faces. People who have worked alongside of me, like Finn Donnelly and Peter Julian, for years to protect the salmon. Finn Donnelly swam the river. When I first saw Finn Donnelly's face, I was like, oh yeah, there's another pretty candidate, you know, another pretty politician. I didn't believe him until I paddled with him on that paddle down the river. And I met people all through the Fraser that he's taken paddling, young people who he has made into leaders. Right from the Takla Lake and the early Stewart through the Stalaco and right down into this area here. So we're posting everything we find on votesalmon.ca. When I started this, I wasn't going to have an opinion. I was just going to post everything. But when I meet people again and again who won't tell me they stand for wild salmon, I don't want anything to do with them. They scare me. And I'm afraid that people vote for authority. I think that the people of Canada want to be told what to do, and that's the only reason they vote for those people. But if you want somebody who's working for you, I can say unabashedly, vote for the NDP. Unless you're in Elizabeth Bay's riding, and I would like to see her become an MP, because you need all voices in government. You need to mix it up. So I don't want to take too much of your time, but thank you so much. The moment we left Sointula to walk down the island, First Nations welcomed us in every community. And on the paddle, they hosted us every single night. We couldn't have done it. We were wet and we were tired, and they fed us salmon, and we became one people, I feel. That might be presumptuous of me, but I'm fighting for everybody for our future, because these really are desperate times. This is not a dress rehearsal any longer. We're on the edge. And so, thank you very, very much.
RCM. I'd like to call Anissa Reid to come and share a few words. Anissa Reid is a true warrior. for the salmon.